Welcome back to the Movie Man. Today I will show you a 2011 Korean drama film, Dream of 400 Years. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. In the opening scene, two construction workers are breaking down a century-old family home. They find a concrete wall on one side and start hammering it. To their surprise, the other side of the wall is another room that contains a shocking item. The owner of the house is a struggling director named Hyun Min. He and his assistant are busy discussing their next project when they're called by the workers to check what they just discovered. Hyun Min goes to the house and sees a mutilated old corpse lying on the floor of the hidden room. He freezes in shock and stares at the corpse for a long time. The workers assume that the room is some kind of tomb and offer to bury the corpse in Hyun Min's family grave. Hyun Min declines the offer, wanting to get to the bottom of who the person is. After that, we're introduced to Dr. Soo-hee, a researcher at a medical center. She's about to go on a date with her friend Jaebom, but before she leaves they're informed about the corpse. Hyun Min is willing to donate it for science, which is a huge opportunity for the research facility. Soo-hee ditches the date to take a look at the corpse. When she first meets Hyun Min, she feels like she's meeting someone she knows. Then the corpse's belongings are carefully cleaned and collected for research. Similarly, the clothes make it evident that she's a girl. Soo-hee feels a certain connection to the corpse that she cannot explain. Her eyes get teary and suddenly even the corpse starts to cry. Soo-hee is shocked for a second before she realizes that the ceiling is leaking. At night she dreams of a man tattooing a flower onto her shoulder. She's been having the same dream for the past year but has never seen the man's face. Strangely enough, every time she sees the tattoo in her dreams, a flower-like mark appears on her shoulder. It gets darker with each dream, but Soo-hee cannot comprehend what it is. She's even been to a dermatologist to get it checked, but no one has the answer to the mark. The next day, Hyun Min's father Dak-ki finds out about the donated mummy. He likes to keep his ancestors' possession orthodox, which is why he's not happy that the corpse was donated. Moreover, Hyun Min is planning to turn the old family house into a motel, and Dak-ki doesn't like the idea. In the lab, the doctors run several tests on the mummy but find no external damage that might have caused the woman's death. The only visible injury to the body is the corpse's broken and missing fingernails. It's strange because the toenails are intact, which means the nails must have been broken because of an exterior force. After a long day of work, Soo-hee goes to meet Jaebom for lunch. He is also her senior from high school who she thinks of as a mentor. However, he on the other hand is in love with her and is constantly trying to woo her. Jaebom is also a psychologist and knows about Soo-hee's recurring dream. Somewhere else, the worker who found the corpse named Choi goes to see Dak-ki. He hands the man a bunch of letters that he discovered alongside the corpse. Dak-ki reads the first few lines, which seem to shock him. He asks Choi to never speak of this to anyone before sending him away. When it gets dark, Hyun Min hears a noise coming from the barn. Initially he dismisses it as something insignificant, but when the banging continues he decides to check. To his shock, someone is hanging from the ceiling inside the barn. However, when he looks away and looks back at the ceiling, the body is gone. Shaken by the incident, Hyun Min quickly goes back to his room. Meanwhile, Choi is on his way back home when he brings out a ring from his pocket. A flashback shows us that he stole it from the corpse alongside the letters. He stands in the middle of the street, proud of his quick thinking, when all of a sudden a car hits him. At the same time, Dak-ki is reading the letter where the name of the corpse is written, but when he checks the family tree he doesn't find the name anywhere. This means someone from the past didn't want the person to be associated with the family name. The next day, Dak-ki goes to a respected elder of their family. He too is distressed to read the note because if the truth comes out, people will shame their family. They decide to keep the notes a secret to protect their names. In the lab, the test results come out and the doctors discover that the corpse is of a woman who was in her mid-20s when she died. Such a young age means that she might have been kidnapped and left to die in a sealed room, but Soo-hee doesn't want to jump to conclusions yet. Later, Dak-ki goes to the lab to request the research be stopped. He wants to take the donation back since it might lead to the doctor uncovering the truth. When Soo-hee finds out about this, she goes to Hyun Min and requests otherwise. They manage to buy some more time for the lab to perform the experiments, promising to return the corpse as soon as possible. Soo-hee also makes friends with Hyunmin's assistant Han-I, who is working on the script for their next project. As they talk, Soo-hee's eyes land on a flower that looks identical to the one she sees in her dreams and the one that's forming on her shoulder. Han-ah discloses that it was Hyunmin's design and he drew it from his imagination. After that, Soo-hee and Hyunmin go into the tomb one more time to look around. Suddenly a brick falls on Hyunmin, but Soo-hee saves him just in time. The two chat while Soo-hee takes care of his injury. Upon being asked about the flower, Hyunmin says that it's supposed to be a tattoo that the male character paints on his female counterpart as a sign of unwithering love. Soo-hee is shocked by the explanation and doesn't know what to think of it. At night, Hana goes to the tomb to take more pictures, when she comes across a stranger. He turns out to be Hyunmin's younger brother Min. He's been working on a project in another city and has returned to ask Ducky for more funds. Somewhere else, Soo-hee gets the same dream again, and this time it completes the mark on her shoulder to a flower. At work, she can hardly focus until she's handed pictures of the mummy taken earlier. There's a mark on the corpse's shoulder which looks like it could have been a flower tattoo. This makes Soo-hee question everything she's known about herself. To investigate further, she goes to an ancient artifacts showroom where the mummy's belongings were donated. An expert reveals that they discovered a pen and ink among her belongings, but no writings were found. Following the interaction, Soo-hee goes inside the tomb again to check for any kind of writings. Instead, she finds scratches on the wall which explains the broken nails on the mummy. Suddenly she gets a vision of herself in traditional clothing scratching the wall in frustration. The scene is so vivid that she feels like she has teleported to the past. She only comes out of her dreams when Hyunmin calls her. The following day, Hyunmin comes to the lab to take pictures of the mummy. Soo-hee watches him work when she suddenly remembers the man's face from her dreams. It is none other than Hyunmin himself. While he works, a nightstand suddenly falls on him, but Soo-hee saves him from the second time. Later that day, she tells him about the dream and inquires if he had ever seen her before they met recently. Hyunmin apologizes because he's never had any dreams of her. Their conversation is interrupted when Jae-bum arrives and brings Soo-hee away. He's jealous that she's spending more time with Hyunmin. In the next scene, Hyunmin hears a noise from the barn yet again and sees someone hanging from the ceiling. He consults a psychiatrist about his problems, and Jae-bum happens to see him in the hospital. To find out more about him, Jae-bum transfers Hyunmin as his patient using his connections. He manages to land a meeting with Hyunmin where he hypnotizes him as a medical procedure to see if he has any childhood traumas. When hypnotized, Hyunmin sees someone trying to open a door, but he wakes up right after. Jae-bum tells him that he didn't find anything significant, lying that the procedure didn't work. In reality, he doesn't want Hyunmin and Soo-hee to get to the bottom of her dreams, so they form a connection. Meanwhile, Soo-hee now suspects that she and the mummy are the same individuals. To confirm, she gives a sample of her hair to the lab, asking to match its DNA to the mummy. A while later, she's told that it's a perfect match. Soo-hee feels dizzy and doesn't know what to do. She returns to the tomb again, where she's found by Hyunmin. When he tries to call her, something takes over Soo-hee and she starts choking him. She only stops when Ducky arrives and pulls her away. When Soo-hee comes to her senses, she apologizes and cannot believe what she just did. The two meet the next day and Soo-hee apologizes again. She explains that it wasn't her who choked him, but doesn't know how to prove it. To dig deeper into the situation, the duo goes to Choi. He is taking care of his sick wife while recovering from an accident that happened a week ago. When asked about the mummy, he refrains from telling them about the letters but gives them a ring back. Choi believes that the ring has brought misfortune to his house and wants to get rid of it as soon as possible. Later, we see Hyunmin returning the ring to his father, telling him about Choi's family. Ducky also believes that the ring brings misfortune and goes to his ancestors' grave to offer them food and pray for their family's welfare. Hyunmin later finds out the grave he's praying to belongs to their 15th generation ancestor. After the ritual, Daki tries to hide the letters but a shelf falls on him, hurting his arm. Hyun-min thinks it's the curse of the ring, which only makes him more curious about the entire story. After that, Soo-hee and Hyun-min go to the elder member of his family who advised Daki to hide the letters some time ago. He pretends to be unaware of any writings found in the tomb and orders them to go away. To get rid of Soo-hee, he sends a bunch of thugs after her that night. She manages to escape when a door automatically locks itself, almost as if someone invisible is helping her. Somewhere else, Hyun-min's brother Min finds the letters in his father's drawer and steals them. He wants to sell it to Soo-hee for money that he needs for business. They make the deal and Soo-hee finally gets her hands on the letters. As she reads it, we're taken to a flashback. Over 200 years ago, Soo-hee and Hyun-min were a happily married couple until one day Soo-hee was kidnapped by a man. He wanted to make her his mistress, but Soo-hee managed to trick him and run back home. However, her mother-in-law believed that she has had sexual relations with another man and kicked her out of the house. Hyun-min couldn't go against his parents' wish, but his love for Soo-hee was greater than that. Hence he brought her to the tomb, which had a small door. She stayed in the tomb for several months and he would come at night to spend time with her. Although Soo-hee lost her freedom, her husband's love was enough to keep her alive. He even tattooed a flower on her shoulder to give her a flower of love that will never wither. One day Soo-hee finds out that Hyun-min got married to another woman at his parents' request. He comes to her on his wedding night and apologizes, promising to love her every day, but the very next day the door to the tomb was sealed with concrete and the person sealing it was none other than Hyun-min himself. Soo-hee cried and begged him to stop. She even lost all her fingernails while trying to break the wall, but Hyun-min never returned and she was left in the tomb forever. Before dying, Soo-hee wrote down everything about her husband's wrongdoings and vowed to never forgive him, not even in hell. By the time Soo-hee is done reading, tears stream down her face. The following morning, she calls Hyun-min, warning him to never go into the tomb because his life is in danger. She also refuses to meet him anymore. Before hanging up, a confused Hyun-min goes through the pictures of the mummy and finds one where Soo-hee's face is distorted. In the next scene, Daki goes to the lab with the intention of killing the mummy once and for all. He also tries to attack Soo-hee, but someone is controlling his hand, making him stab himself. Initially Soo-hee is arrested for attacking him, but then the CCTV footage of the incident is found and the truth comes out. After being released, she hands the letters to Daki and decides to move away from Hyun-min's life forever. A while later, Hyun-min finds said letters and finally discovers the whole truth. This also brings back his memory of the past and he remembers the person hanging from the ceiling is himself. Somewhere else, Soo-hee gets her hands on Jae-bum's notes, which makes it clear that he's been hiding things from Hyun-min. It's not only unethical, but his medical license can be revoked for lying to a patient. She orders him to never speak to her again before storming away. In the notes, a message that Hyun-min wrote before his death is mentioned. Soo-hee and Hana go to the barn and look for the message, finding it engraved behind an old box. In the meantime, Hyun-min goes to the lab to meet his wife from his past life. Suddenly the mummy comes to life and starts choking him. Hyun-min doesn't fight back, knowing that he is at fault. Right then Soo-hee arrives and tells them about the message Hyun-min left before his death. In another flashback, we see Hyun-min's new wife finding out that her husband is still in love with Soo-hee and goes to meet her every night. She tells her in-laws, who forcefully make Hyun-min plaster the door shut to kill Soo-hee. He does as told, hoping to return back soon and let her free. However, when he comes back later, they stop him and lock him inside the bar, knowing that he will never be together with Soo-hee again. He apologizes to her in the message and commits the unthinkable. Back in the present, the mummy calms down, finally forgiving her husband. She's given a proper burial by Daki, who is now regretful of what he did. In the last scene, we see Hyun-min and Soo-hee in their past lives falling asleep together. That was all from the video. I hope you liked it. Hit the like button and subscribe to watch more videos like this, and don't forget to turn on your notifications. Thanks for watching.